Good morning. It's Monday, July 10. I'm leaning up against the door here because I'm tired. Well, what's going on today is I have to finish up billing for restaurants that I didn't finish last night. I need to do our 2-week schedule flip. I need to direct the crew on what's gonna happen when I'm gone this Friday, because I'm leaving the farm for an extraordinary first time high season getaway on a fishing trip to Alaska. So you're probably wondering, how did you get to know all this stuff? Well, I did a lot of reading. I'm the kind of person where I don't necessarily read just for the fun of it. I'm a doer. I gotta use my hands, I gotta move stuff around, I gotta play with stuff. Trained as an artist, like I've said before. A lot of this came from books, a lot of this came from the internet, a lot of this came from moving stuff around, pushing stuff around in the soil. There's 2 books I want to share with you. One for the home gardener that was influential for me in, playing around with raised bed gardens in our city house. This book is full of all kinds of good stuff, lots of good pictures and content that's how to can, how to backyard fruits and nuts, luscious landscaping, shows you how to plant strawberries. That's the Backyard Homestead by Story Publishing. The biggest benefit, I think, was how to produce the food you need on just a 1/4 acre. I mean, it shows you and it gives you an idea in the book just what the possibilities are. And like I tell people who ask me, how much space do I need? And I said, well, how much do you want to work? How much do you want to grow? The Backyard Homestead, that's a great book. But for what we do here on the farm, this is the book. A friend of mine turned me on to this book, The Market Gardener by J.M. Fortier. It's loaded with information, but it also has diagrams and pictures and things that give you an idea. But this is what changed my trajectory. I was working, doing grip, electric work, dolly grip, gaffer, producer for many local film and video operations. A lot of corporate stuff, and I was ready to be done. I needed a change. So somebody handed me this book and I read it in about 3 days, and I told Heather, I said, this is what we need to do. This is what we're going for. There's a whole backstory that we'll have to get into in another series, but J.M. Fortier, The Market Gardener. Morning, Ralph.
Morning. It's Monday.
It's the Monday rip and run. So I've got to get the rest of the billing finished and do the 2-week schedule flip so that you guys know what's going on for when I'm gone.
Yeah.
And I won't be able to get that done right away. So we'll have to talk about that later and convene over that before lunch or just after lunch or something like that. But we've got the Salanova bed flips to do.
Yeah.
We have to catch up from all the stuff that we didn't get in the ground last week. The summer squash, the 2 beds of gang crops. We have to plan for seeding, and I have to get Rylan on that with me because he's going to be in charge of seeding for when I'm away.
Okay. I'll start yanking the Salanovas.
Okay, you start yanking the Salanovas, and then we may switch gears, and we may end up ripping that later in the day.
Okay.
Once Rylan gets out, because the peppers are super high priority.
Yes.
Yeah, we have to get those ready. So I think we'll all get on the peppers. If that makes any sense.
Sure. Yeah.
If it makes sense, what I was just saying. So
Yeah.
It doesn't quite make sense to me yet. So
We can always edit this.
It's 9:34, and right now I'm working on the 2-week schedule flip. This is my my action list for the week, or actually for 2 weeks. Week 1, week 2 on the bottom, and we like to have 2 weeks at a time so that we can see what's coming following week, and then what we need to do from last week. This is what we need to accomplish that we didn't get done last week. All the ones that aren't crossed off. So they're working on the Salanova beds right now. I'm gonna go to the spreadsheet to figure out what needs to go on the action list. This is our crop map. This gives us an overhead view of what is going in and out of the gardens at any given day or time. It's got a calendar on one side and then the duration of the crop in the garden at that point. So this is our east side and this is our west side. So you can see we're flipping crops in and out of these gardens 2, sometimes 3 times, and occasionally, very occasionally, a 4th time. This helps us to know at a glance what's going on in the gardens. So we've also got our direct seeding calendar. This shows us what crops are going in to be direct seeded, and this is our nursery and transplant calendar. You can see on this column here, we got all these crops, and we've already accomplished seeding all the way down to here. So we have a lot to go, but we're well over halfway seeded for our nursery transplants for the season. Over here we know when these guys go in the ground, so we can figure out what's going. So I gotta make this make sense on here so I can take this out in the field with me. I have it on my phone also, but this action list is much easier for us to manage out in the field. All right, so it's almost 10:30 and it's really important that I take the time without the pressures of the crew, without the pressures of what has to happen during the day, to really wrap my mind around what's going to be happening when I leave for Alaska on Friday. I'm not going to be here, and I've got to effectively communicate what needs to happen here on the farm while I'm gone. I'm only going to be gone for 4 days, Friday through I think it's Wednesday morning. But at this point, I'm the only one that knows how to read the schedule. That poses a huge problem. I want you to fill this tank for your dailies, and then I want you to fill that tank for the dishes, and I'll put the sanitizer in it, and then when Rylan and Grandpa come down off the hill, we will regroup and figure out what's going on for next week. Does that sound good? All the restaurant billing is now out, so I can erase these orders off the board. We've already got restaurants that are dinging us for what they want for next week. So I've got to get that back on the board, especially at this time. A lot of chefs have special dinners that they're working on, and they want us to supply a portion of their needs for that project. So while Ralph and Rylan are on top of the hill messing with the Salanova bed flip, I'm gonna try and take care of all the dishes that stacked up over the sales week. So Ralph's out weeding some of the herb beds under fabric. Hawk's washing and harvesting cucumbers. Rylan's doing the prop house. He's watering the prop house. I'm gonna gather all these guys together, Asher included, who's editing away on episode 4, part 2, which you don't want to miss because that's where the heavy lifting and deep breathing happen. We're gonna get these guys together and we're gonna talk about what's gonna happen next week when I'm gone in Alaska. Okay, so basically for the schedule for next week, we've got these things in blue that need to be done, okay? So Rylan, you need to hang with me when I seed this week so you can figure out what's going on with seeding for next week. Ralph, I'm gonna leave you in charge of bed prep for next week. There's only gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4 beds to prep. I'm probably gonna show Rylan how to use the BCS to do this bed, or here's the other thing, if we can get to all that bed prep this week, or at least to the Happy Rich, the broccolini for this week, then it'll be ready for you guys to transplant and you don't have to prep that bed. The only ones you'll have to prep are for bolero and the radishes. Now, what we need to do on this board here for when I'm gone is set a list of things that you guys need to take care of. You know, like where you were weeding today, all the beds under fabric on the east side need to be hand weeded and pull all those weeds pulled out. The other thing too is cultivating out in garden 5, which is north-south gardens over here by the hedgerow. Cultivation is crucial. Rylan, you're also going to be on watering duty in the propagation house on the porch, and also for all the gardens. All right, Hawk, you're still on the dailies. If there's anything that we don't get transplanted from this week, because we have a lot of stuff that's holdovers from last week that we have to transplant today and tomorrow. If we don't get all of that done, that means it's going to push this back into the following week. And I really, really don't want that to happen, because then that means you guys are going to have more to do and more confusion can happen. So we need to make our best effort to get the rest of the summer squash in, to get these other crops in the ground. We've got 2 crops to put it in the ground. I've got to direct seed something. And then tomorrow we really need to focus on the crops for this week to get all of that stuff in the ground. I think we're probably going to attack the Salanovas once Heather gets home this evening. And we also have 2 beds to lay down drip lines and fabric on for winter squash, and 1 more bed to put fabric on and transplant. But that should go fairly quickly. It's rare that I get to eat lunch with the rest of the guys, because there's always something out here that I've got to prep so that by the time they're done with lunch, they can be back in service and rocking it out. So I'm gonna go look at some beds, and I don't know where the rubber mallets are to put the stakes in to the fabrics. So I've got to find those, and then once that's all done and accomplished, if this bed needs irrigation, I'm gonna have to turn that on. It's looking fairly dry, which is a yes. So this needs irrigation. The other thing that we have to do on the farm is we have to improvise. I look at our crop plan as the musical score for somewhat of an offbeat symphony. And, you know, there's always weather delays. There's always crop failures. There's always insect pressures or disease pressures that, you know, cause some form of holdup. So we can't be so rigid with our scheduling that we can't move on the fly. It's something that takes practice. If you're a musician like I am, you know that if you forget your notes, you got to learn how to roll with the rhythm. Improvisation is key when you're doing this kind of work.
Here's your sandwich.
Oh, dude, thank you guys. You rule. It's 10.
Pasta
And
salad.
we're almost done with the rest. So, Rylan, you're going to come out with me, and we're going to put down that fabric for the summer squash and the extra drip lines over here. Hawk, you're going to help Grandpa weeding out here on these herb beds, and wherever Grandpa is, I want you to help him until we're ready. And then I'll radio everybody and let them know that we need to transplant, okay? Let's go. This is our irrigation diversion here. I'm closing off the east side and opening off the west side. Our irrigation system was designed in conjunction with Dubois Agrinovation out of Quebec, Canada. It's really made a huge difference on the farm. I basically, you know, told them what I needed. They designed the system and shipped all the parts, and I put it together, and boom, it works. That's super important.
Here we go.
These are miniature butternuts. I know it seems a little crazy for those of you who are gardeners, or maybe even farmers, planting these guys so close. But we found last year that the vines only got to be about that long. And so the more we plant, the more we yield. The more we yield, the more we sell. The more we sell, the easier it is to stay independent. We decided we'd get our boys involved in this work early on. I want to teach them to be Americans, not Americans. Finished off the transplanting of the other bed of summer squash. I planted some beans, and now it's time to regroup with the boys who are in the pool. I've got to go transplant a bed with the Japanese paper pot transplanter, and then we're going to transplant the rest of the bed with plugs, and we might be close to being caught up. Here we go. I'm about to take these flats here out to one of the beds that we prepped and marked for last week, but didn't get in the ground. We're gonna use two methods, the Japanese paper pot transplanter, and we're gonna use this infinite dibbler from Too Bad Cats to mark our spacing for some of the other crops. We're planting green onions, baby fennel, basil, cilantro, Caraflex cabbage, and some shiso. So that's what's going in. So remember I was talking about improvisation earlier? Well, this handle, somewhere along the way, the pin that goes in here that keeps this handle at the right height so I can pull it down the row when I'm using the transplanter. Well, that's gone. I found a bolt in the barn and it's just a little too short to work. So I'm gonna try and find something out here that I can put in there and make it happen, because I don't want to walk all the way back to the barn again. All right, well, I got a bunch of landscape staples in here, and it's not ideal, but I'll try to be faster next time. The idea with the paper pot transplanter, everything's in a paper chain, and the transplanter pulls it behind. If I've got more than one crop to seed in a bed, I just keep going on the row. This is cilantro right here. I've finished that row to where my marker flag is. I'm gonna start the basil to that next marker flag, then the shiso goes after that, and then you can see that cabbage down at the 3/4 end of the bed. That'll get transplanted by hand. But this thing does save a lot of time, but the soil conditions have to be right. And these soil conditions are pretty darn good, so we're gonna keep rocking. There it is. So I'm gonna pull this, rip the chain, and then start the next crop, the shiso. And done with the paper pot transplanter. This tool takes a little bit of time to get used to, but when you do, you know what to look for. You know when the soil's right, when the plugs are right, it saves a lot of time. These are where our extra paper chains come to die. Wish they were more biodegradable. Knocking them down. Santo, Aroma 2, Breton. Almost caught up from last week, but you can see we still have a lot to do tomorrow. We need to do this tomorrow, and we need to seed all of these crops, and I need to show Rylan how to seed in the Japanese paper pot transplanter so that he can take care of this stuff while I'm gone. Now we're gonna change the spacing on the dibbler so that we can mark the spot for green onions and baby fennel. The spacing is 4 rows at 6 inches for the onions and 4 rows at 8 inches for the baby fennel. We tried both those crops with the Japanese paper pot transplanter, but we found the quality of the end product is much, much better with just a manual transplant. They just never get to size as fast if they go in the Japanese paper pot transplanter, and the quality of the roots is just not as good, and so therefore they can't uptake minerals and nutrients that they need to get off to a healthy start. So here we go. Drop and go. right, so I'm gonna change the dibbler to 8-inch spacing for the baby fennel. Hawk and Rylan are gonna go back and plug some of the misfires, which means some of the plants that didn't make it from the squash transplants last week. And then we're getting close to being done for the day. You know, it's just, we got another day, I think, to catch up, but I think we're gonna be in good shape. So we're moving as quickly as possible right now. So that's the story. Morning glory. What do you think, Hawk?
I don't know.
What you doing, Rylan?
Plugging misfires of sheet soap.
What are misfires?
Ones that didn't germinate.
In the paper chain?
Yeah, like these empty holes.
Yeah, and so what do you do?
Plug them in the ground.
Is that right, Hawk?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Okay, we're done
For today.
for today. Let's hit it hard tomorrow, okay, guys?
First day of
Okay.
chaos.
Love you guys.
Love you too.
Let's hit it and quit.
Okay.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, hit it!
Quit!
Quit.
I wonder what they're doing. Are you calling me on the radio? I know you're tired, but I appreciate you going up to the hill and pruning those peppers. You know, my mom and I asked you guys to buy in. I think you got it. I think you got it.
Yeah.
You did awesome. Rylan, I'm proud of you, buddy.
Thanks, Dad.
I love you.
I love you too.
Let's go eat.
I'm hungry.
Me too. And tired.